Have you ever been so terrified of a situation that you would rather run a 12-hour marathon than have to go through it all over again? Well, I definitely have felt like that. So this story actually starts a few weeks into year 11, so I was about 15, 16 years old, and I was walking to school one day and I found this lighter on the floor, and for some reason, me being the weird guy that I am, I just decided to pick it up, started to play around with it and stuff because I was just bored, and then I just put it in my pocket. By the time I got to school that day, for some reason I'd arrived really early, so I had to just hang around in the corridor for a while before I went into my form room. Outside of the form room, which also happens to be a science classroom, there was a set of lockers, and inside of these lockers was just a bunch of paper for some reason. I don't know why there was just a bunch of paper in there. But either way, I decided to take this paper out of the locker and singe it with my lighter for some reason. Now, just a little bit of context. In my art class, we'd been recently doing this thing where we were singeing the sides of paper and then like dipping it in tea and all that and making it look aged. So I thought, hey, I'm going to do that down a science corridor. So I was sitting in the corner of the corridor, there was no one else around, just singeing this little bit of paper, and then I started to hear people turn up, so I quickly blew out this paper, threw it back in the locker, and shut the locker door. As more people started turning up in the corridor, they all started to kind of notice that there was a smell in the air. At this moment, I didn't really think much of it. I was like, yeah, whatever, they don't know it's me, it's all fine. Then at this exact moment, a science teacher came out of one of the other classrooms and came to stand in the corridor.
Students, what is that smell? I can smell fire. What is that fire smell?
So he stood out in the corridor for a little while and kind of asked around to see if anyone knew where the smell was coming from, because obviously a smell like that usually isn't a good sign in a school. Then somehow a few people started to cotton on to the fact that it was me, mainly because of my hugely guilty face, and I am really bad at poker facing. And then there was this one kid who I will never forgive. Never. I'm going to call him Adam for the sake of this video. Adam stood up and he told the teacher it was me. Next thing I know, he's walked over to the locker, he opens the locker door, and it's on fire. Smoke just kind of pours out of the locker, and at this point, I honestly didn't know whether to just run away and never come back, or just stand there and just... It was literally the most terrifying moment of my entire life. So because I wasn't exactly a bad kid in school, like I'd never really done anything like this before, the teacher asked me, Lucas, was it you? And I just came out and I just said, yes. Like, I think the worst thing I'd ever done in school at that point was, like, steal a paperclip from a teacher's desk, and I felt bad about that for weeks. So now this teacher is looking at me thinking, oh my god, this quiet kid who never really spoke in school, never really got up to much, turns out he's an arsonist. That will not look good on my CV. This teacher basically left me by saying, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble for this. And then he went. He went back into his classroom, and that was the end of it. I thought you can't leave me like this. This is like the worst cliffhanger ever. So a couple of days pass, and it's the school photo day. So I'm sitting in the school canteen, which is where they do photos for some reason, and I'm looking around the room because I know that if any point the head teacher could just walk into the room and shoot me. Okay, maybe not shoot me, but you know that's what it felt like, and that's when it happened. I'm sitting, having my photograph taken, and someone puts their hand on my shoulder.
You're in a lot of trouble, mister.
He tells me to stand up and follow him into his office. Now, just before I go on, just a little bit more background context. Because I felt so bad about what I'd done and because I'd been told off by a teacher, that same night that I tried to set that locker on fire, not purposely, I went home and I told my mum what had happened, and I tried to explain it in a way that meant that showed that, like, I wasn't trying to set the school on fire. And surprisingly enough, my mum kind of was understanding about the situation. Thanks, Mum. So I'm sitting in the headmaster's office, and he picks up the phone, and he dials my mum's phone number. I'm sitting there in the corner, shaking, been forced to write some weird document that I don't even know what it means, and I'm just writing random stuff and signing things. At this point, I actually thought I was going to go to prison. Next thing, the head teacher turns around, looks me dead in the eye, and tells me I've been excluded for one whole day. Again, I was a kid that never did anything really very bad in school. I felt like I'd just been sent down for like 10 years. He tells me my mum is coming to pick me up and to not come back to school until Wednesday. A few days later, I was called back into school for a meeting. So I walk into this meeting with my mum, terrified, clinging to her for dear life. And this room is just packed full of like teachers and like border governors and like all sorts of crazy important people that I don't even know their titles. I sit down, I'm shaking, I'm sweating. I feel like I'm just gonna poo myself.
Okay, Lucas, don't do that again.
They literally told me not to do it again and to go back to class. 3 days of torture for that. So that's my story about how I accidentally set fire to a locker and had the worst 3 days of my entire life. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're enjoying this new series of videos, please be sure to hit that like button and also comments. Let me know what you think of this new series, because it is something I've not really tried before. So yeah, that's about it. See you later, guys, and see you in the next one. I'm terrible with outros. Goodbye.